tell us the story of what inspired you to create your own puzzles and start a puzzle business.
Well, back in around 2019 era, I was a teacher, and I had been a teacher for nearly 8 years at that point. And I loved my job, but it was getting to the point where the stress was starting to really overwhelm me, and I didn't have a boss that I particularly got along with. So actually, I sunk into pretty deep depression. And I thought I need to do something that's totally removed from my profession that I can put some of my passion into that I just really love doing. And so one day I literally just woke up and I went to my husband and I said, I'm going to start a puzzle Instagram account. And I'm just going to puzzle every day until I feel better. And my husband kind of laughed at me and was like, okay. I mean, he didn't laugh like in a bad way, just more like, okay, I mean, whatever floats your boat. And I didn't think anything would come of it. I just wanted to document my process of doing puzzles and my thoughts on puzzles. And after like a few weeks of me doing this, I started feeling a little bit better. And then I thought, well, I also like really doing art. So I'm going to do that a little bit too. And I'm just going to make colorful, abstract pieces. Only joy, because I was feeling just so sad and I just needed to feel color in my life again. So I started making these abstract, colorful pieces. And then I thought, what if I combined those two things? What if I put this colorful work of art into a puzzle? And then my husband was just kind of went with it too, and that was literally the day we just both just was like, let's do it. Let's just make a puzzle company, and we'll call it Mintyfizz after your name, and we'll put these colorful abstract pieces onto puzzles. And if somebody likes them and wants to do them, we'll sell them. And it just kind of grew from there into
And
the 7 puzzles that I have now.
yeah. So where does that name Minty Fizz come from? You said it's your name. What's the origin of that?
Yeah, so it's kind of a silly story. Back when I was in, I think middle school, I had this really good friend, and we wanted to make root beer floats. One day, it was a hot day. Her and I would go rollerblading every single day. That was like our thing. We would go skating every single day, and it was a hot day. And we were like, let's make root beer floats. So we went to go, we went to her house to go make them, but there was no root beer, and there was no vanilla ice cream. But she had like I think Sprite or 7 Up and mint ice cream. And we tried that. And I just was like, oh, it's Minty Fizz because it was like bubbling on top. And so she called me Minty Fizz. And I don't know, I just that story just kind of like rung a chord with me. And I decided I'd name myself Minty Fizz on Instagram. And I thought that's kind of a cute name for a puzzle company, especially one that does bright, colorful images. And I just like, that's me in a nutshell. And it's kind of like a representation of that time of my life. And I just kind of went with it.
How did it taste?
Not great. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but we both
Yeah.
decided root beer floats were significantly better.
Yeah. Well, so when you were talking about how, you were going through this period of depression and wanted to do something to cheer yourself up, and you kind of you went to puzzles. Was that something, has that always been your go-to? What is sort of your relationship with puzzles?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really associated puzzles with my mental health before. It just kind of was a thing I did on the side periodically. I was always really into them. I've been into them since I was a kid, and I've always just really been drawn to it. And if I look back at myself growing up, I struggled a lot with my mental health even as a kid. But I always would go into my room, close the door. My parents got me a little TV and a DVD player to watch movies in my room. So then I'd put one of those on and I would just puzzle and puzzle and puzzle and puzzle until I felt better. And then I'd come out. So I guess it's only taken me to as an adult to realize there was kind of a connection there between the past and now. Um, Now I do it nearly every day. And I don't necessarily do it for my mental health, although it just has that benefit. But I thought, at the time that I started the account, that was going to be my goal, is I was going to puzzle until I literally just felt better. And it's really worked. I feel so much better. I mean, puzzling is not the only thing that helped, but it helped significantly for sure.
Yeah. And what are some of your favorite kinds of puzzles to do?
Oh gosh, it's really hard to kind of pick one. Um, but of course,
Some
I
of
love the
them.
colorful images. I love anything that is done by like a real artist. I like seeing the paint strokes. Um, Anything to do with, I mean, gosh, modern art, abstract art, all of that stuff. I really love large puzzles. Um, I just think they're so fun. I love project puzzles, I guess, is also another way to put it. So a puzzle that's going to take me a while.
Mhm.
So I naturally gravitate towards challenging puzzles, which is weird because if you asked me that 5, 6 years ago, I would not have liked a challenge puzzle. I would stay so far away from it. But now that I've done them and I've gotten really comfortable with them, I kind of like being uncomfortable in the challenge and then coming out the other side. And so I gravitate towards the challenge puzzles and the things that are going to take me a while because I've gotten to the point where I've gotten pretty fast at puzzling, and so I buzz through puzzles so fast now that I like that sometimes, but most of the time I just really want to slow down because it is about me and the process of putting together the puzzle more than the finished product.
Yeah. I'd really love to hear about the art too. You mentioned that you decided to kind of make puzzles but create your own art for it because I guess it combines two of the things that you really like. So tell me a little bit about kind of how art came into your life and what kinds of art you have done and like to do.
Yes, art is my other passion besides puzzling that I've had since childhood. Um, Art has been actually my biggest focus in school ever since, gosh, it was like the fourth grade. I was really struggling in math and reading. I'm dyslexic, so those two things were hard for me. And my fourth grade teacher said, "You know what? Maybe you should focus on art." And that was the first time someone had ever told me that. And I was like, "Ah, that makes so much sense," when he said that to me. Like, art. Of course, I still had to do all the academics, but art was then my passion. And I did it all through middle school and high school. I got my bachelor's in art and art history. The things that are on my puzzles are not what I typically actually make in art. I do more, I do a lot of florals. I do a lot of dragons. I do a lot of dot art, stippling, or pointillism, some people call it.
Hmm.
Um, I do a lot of landscapes. I do oil paints, all sorts of stuff. The designs on my puzzle are actually completely different from what I normally do. I actually have never done abstract before my puzzles.
What was that like then, stepping into that and how did that feel? Did it sort of, yeah, what did you sort of kind of gain or observe from doing something so different?
That's a great question. Um, yeah, I think it was just about removing myself from focusing on an image. And because sometimes I get tied down when I do an image. And I was like, I need to put color on a piece of paper and not, and just let my mind kind of do whatever it wants. I want to find the brightest colors I can and saturate the heck out of them and put them on a canvas and see what happens. So that's what I did. I didn't want anything to have an image minus Gilded Berries, which has leaves and berries. That's the most image oriented one that I have. Um, but beyond that, I just wanted to see what the process was, and I loved it. I loved creating that stuff. And so now I doodle abstract stuff and colorful stuff and rainbows, and it's just more about the process and removing own conceptions of like what something has to look like. So I'm not thinking, oh, this cat looks weird or that landscape background makes no sense. It's just color and focusing on that. And therefore, I'm putting color into the world. And my hope is that when someone does my puzzle, I'm putting a little bit of color into their world.
Yeah, I love that. Do you remember which of your puzzles was the first piece of art that you made in that collection?
Yeah. Yeah, it is this one.
So which one is this? And tell us
So
about the process.
this is Painter's palette, and it's literally the leftover colors of one of my palettes. And I scraped it on using my little knife tool. And this was probably the easiest one to create. And I just remember I made this one pretty much around the same time that I started Instagram, and I saw people doing rainbow puzzles, which I was like, oh wow, like that was kind of a newer concept to me. Like I'd done a couple of rainbow puzzles, but I saw how just incredibly popular they were, and I wanted to create some rainbows for myself. So this work of art I have hanging just right over on the other side of the room
Oh,
from
cool.
me. It's one of the few works of these arts that I have the actual copy of hanging around. So it was this
Yeah,
one, followed very, very shortly by Joy Waves, which is this one.
yeah, cool. There were, so those were paint, I assume those two.
Yes.
Were there any that used maybe different mediums or?
I have one that I made on the computer.
Hmm.
So this is Sunset Tiles, and these were my logo colors. So this used to be mint green, and this used to be the pink. And then I just, used the burn tool to like burn them until I found colors that I liked and thought would be good for a puzzle. And I didn't want just a plain gradient, so I made it tiles. Um, this is one of my more challenging images.
Yeah,
Uh, I I actually kind of purposely made challenging images because I wanted something to last me a little bit longer because I made them a little bit for myself too.
of course.
So I created this one. So because gradients go so fast for me.
Yeah,
So I created this one. And then let's see. Oh, this one has a mixture of paint and paper. Like
yeah. I
this is
wondered
like,
about that.
yeah, there's some cutouts of the paper and then paint on it.
Okay.
Um, and then this one has a mixture of paint and shaving cream.
Shaving cream. What made you think of shaving cream?
I don't know. I just wanted to puff the paint up a bit. So
Yeah.
I used shaving cream and, oh, and a little bit of glue so that it would
Okay.
hold its texture. Because
Yeah.
the coloring that I used in it made it really soft again and it would just kind of melt. So I had to take a picture of this one super, super fast.
Yeah. So cool to know kind of the process and all of that. I mean, it's very clear. I mean, you said that you wanted intentionally to make things that were colorful and bright and joyful, and that's definitely what I get. What's your favorite thing to hear from people that have done your puzzles?
Um, I I love all kinds of the compliments that I get from the quality and all stuff, but my favorite kind of compliment is when people tell me it brought them some joy. I got this really nice email, and I actually posted a little blurb from it on my Instagram where she talks about how she suffers from PTSD and depression, and how when she was doing this puzzle, that made her feel so much better because I instantly had a connection with that person, um, considering the fact that I was dealing with those same things. So I think that's my favorite type of compliment. It's just it brought them joy and they loved it. And of course, I love when they talk about the quality and that they just enjoyed the puzzle overall. But when it touches them in another way, that's obviously what brings me the most happiness.
Yeah. So there's kind of the art side, and then there's of course kind of the business side, right? So
Yes.
how did you figure out how to kind of build this into a business? And
That
were
was
there challenges for that?
Oh yeah. I am not a business expert. I've never done this before. Both me and my husband kind of had to figure that part out together. He's much better at dealing with the business aspect of stuff. Um, so when I first started, I didn't know much about finding a manufacturer or how to send them the right kind of image. And just how expensive that whole process is. Starting a puzzle company is surprisingly expensive. So my first manufacturer, although I liked them and I thought the puzzles were decent, I wanted to get even better. So my next round of puzzles were even higher quality. That process took me a very, very long time to switch over manufacturers. I would send in the image thinking it would look good on a puzzle, and then I'd get the sample back, and I was like, "This is awful. Like, I don't want this out into the world." So I'd have to go back, redo some of my art, or go on the computer and edit the colors a bit and resend it. I can't tell you how many samples I had to get of this one. This
Mhm.
one almost didn't make it to production because I couldn't stand the samples that were coming back.
Mm.
But this is my bestseller. So I'm glad that it happened, but it was the most painful process. And I kept thinking to myself, why am I doing this? This is hard. I don't know what I'm doing. Um, my husband luckily also helped me a lot with that. And then we had our puzzles in a warehouse for the longest time, and then the warehouse damaged a bunch. So then we had to figure out how to pull those out of circulation. Those were getting sent out to people. And so that was frustrating because we didn't want damaged puzzle scouts. So then we had to like figure out a whole new way to ship. And so this kind of backtracking and making sure people are getting quality puzzles, that stuff overwhelms me and it's hard, but I'm glad that I did it. Like it was a great learning experience. I have a better grasp on how to do all this stuff, but it was a steep learning experience. And also I had literally just had a baby. So there
Wow.
was a lot going on.
Yeah. So, going through, maybe a couple of manufacturers and trying to get it where you want it. For you, what boxes did it have to check? Like what were the things that you needed your puzzle to have?
Yeah. So from I wanted really thick pieces. The thicker the better. And so as I had my different series of puzzles, they got better and better in terms of that. Now I think they're really awesome, like in terms of that. I wanted them to interlock, but as pretty well, which they do. I tried really hard to find mostly matte pieces. And it's when you were looking for a manufacturer, some manufacturers offer some of these things and not other things, or they charge more for some of this. So I needed to kind of find a manufacturer that could meet what I liked as best they could. So that was part of it. I wanted a nice, like, sturdy box, which that was also a process to make and to design the box that they also could produce. The other part is I have a little bit of a sustainability on it. Like I have one of these carbon, what should we call it? Carbon offsets going on with my puzzles, which I wanted to find a manufacturer that did that and used recycled archival cardboard. So there was a lot that went into it, and a lot of manufacturers offer some of that and don't offer some other things. So you kind of have to kind of pick and choose, and that's kind of what took me so long from my first two puzzles to my next three puzzles is because I needed to add all those things that I wanted.
Yeah. Gotcha. Um, and then how did your collaboration with completing the puzzle come about?
They reached out to me. um, yeah, it was they were one of the first people to actually reach out to me, and they're just like, "Are you interested in having some of your puzzles for rent?" And I was really flattered. I was like, "Oh my gosh, someone wants my puzzles made, a little Kelly." So they were one of my very first customers. I didn't understand how that would, work necessarily. Renting a puzzle was like a new idea to me. But yeah, they reached out to me and they order my puzzles fairly often. When I had new designs, there they were. And I'm glad I got to meet them in person in Portland. That was so fun. And it's their shirt
Yeah.
too. So they've just been really big supporters, and so I'm a big supporter of them as well.
Yeah. Have you heard from anybody who kind of discovered you because of their rental?
Yes, actually, I've had a few people that have tagged me in their stories or have reached out. I've gained a couple followers that way as well. So definitely, if I get tagged by somebody for one of my puzzles that I myself is problem not following, I can pretty much guarantee it's going to be because of the rentals.
Hmm. Yeah. And then, with Portland and, nationals, so you've had a chance to now meet people in the community and people who've done your puzzles. So what's that been like? Any memorable conversations or experiences?
Oh, that's a really tough question. Yeah, those are the two events that I've been to where I've been able to actually meet people. Nationals, no, yes, nationals. That was huge. It was a little bit overwhelming, but that's where I met a big chunk of the puzzling community. I felt a little overwhelmed because I myself was competing in like all the events too. And I wasn't there to like sell any puzzles or do any of that work, which so it was just meeting people and experiencing what it was like speed puzzling, which was one of my first experiencing experiences speed puzzling. But it was nice to make those connections. And now I feel like I can put more of a face to a name because on Instagram, it's sometimes it's just they don't have their faces connected to
Yeah.
their profile. And then Portland was, I felt a little bit more, was a little bit more comfortable. Like there was less people. I felt like I was able to slow down a bit. I got to go thrifting with some puzzlers, which I love thrifting puzzles. I love that. I love that so much. I was able to actually have like more conversations. I felt, yeah, I just, and Portland is much closer to my home. So, um, that was really nice, and I have strong hopes that I'm going back to the Portland competition. I don't see what would hold me back as of
Yeah.
right now. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah.
definitely.
I'll probably see you there.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so you are in Olympia, Washington, right? Tell us a
Correct.
little bit about Olympia. How long have you been there? Tell us a little bit about your family and your community.
So Olympia is a little bit of a small town, not teeny, but smallish. But what I like about it is we're surrounded by a lot of forest, like just a short drive, you're at the mountains. At the short drive, you're at the beach. A short drive, you're at a rainforest, or you can even find a desert. Like we have a lot of stuff around us. So I have a strong sense of place here in the Pacific Northwest. We have Seattle really close to us, which is nice, and Portland is not that far either. I've lived in Olympia my pretty much my whole life, with little bits living in other places, but I've obviously come back to Olympia, and I feel like it's a great place to raise my kids. Um, and my family is not too far from me. No, none of my family lives in Olympia anymore, but they're all not too far, so that's nice. So I come from a family of mostly teachers. I mean, I followed that line pretty hard.
Mhm.
Um, and I've, I feel connected to my family and nature, and there's a lot of art here. There's a lot of community here. So I'm a happy camper right where I am at. I can't imagine not living in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Yeah. How many kids and how old?
I have three kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, although she's about to turn 6, and a 3-year-old.
Yeah. So you got your hands full.
I do have my hands
Yeah.
full.
Yeah. Well, so what plans do you have for Mintyfizz puzzles? Are you thinking of, doing any new designs? Yeah, what's the future look like?
Good question. As of right now, I don't have any official plans. I'm not gonna like say I'm not ever going to make more puzzles because I don't know what the future holds. But at the moment, I don't have any real plans. Life is really busy at the moment uh, with the kids, and I'm doing a lot of other things. My husband, he's busy with his job too, so it's a lot right now.
Hmm.
When I started my company, my intention wasn't necessarily to make it something big. It was mostly like I wanted to just put my art out there, put me out there, and see what comes about. I made the two designs and I liked that, so I thought I would make a few more. And then when I quit my job as a teacher, my last paycheck, I put into making puzzles. Like that's what I did. Um, and I'm so proud of the seven that I have. It would be amazing to do more puzzles someday. I'm not saying I won't do it, but as of the immediate future, there's no actual plans. But if I do come back with more puzzles, I want to make really, really good images for those things.
Hmm. Do you have an idea of what kinds of images, or are they going to
Mm,
be kind of similar or along the lines of what you've already made, or do you think you'd do something different?
it's a great question. I think I would probably branch out.
Hmm.
I've made some really cool dragon drawings. They're probably actually by my feet somewhere. Yeah, there they are. That I really like. Um, and it's made out of Sharpie and ink work, but it's all dots. So it's really
Oh,
cool.
cool.
I love it. I think that would make a really awesome puzzle if I were to finish that. It's a labor of love, though. It takes me hours and hours and hours to work on it, and I haven't worked on it in quite some time. So,
Yeah.
whoops. I have some ideas of like, um, yeah, more images, but like maybe mixing in the bright colors, because I want them to still be kind of connected. I want people to look at it and know that it's my art, that this is my company. I briefly thought about adding in more artists into the mix. And I've gone back and forth whether or not I want to spread like that and include more artists, or if I want to keep the company just me. And
Hmm.
I have very mixed feelings about that. So that's the other direction I'm contemplating going because I they're really good puzzles and there's so many really great artists out there that probably should have their art on puzzles, but I am very unfamiliar with that process of adding people and art onto puzzles.
Yeah.
I'm such a
Well,
newbie.
listen, you learned how to make, manufacture puzzles, so you
Yeah.
know, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's kind of all the questions that I had, but anything else you'd want people to know or anything else that you'd want to share?
Oh, I guess I don't really have much to add other than the fact that I really adore the puzzle community. Puzzles bring me a lot of light and a lot of joy, but the community has really brought me a lot of light and a lot of joy. So when I started all of this, it was more for kind of like personal reasons that this is about me and my journey. And although it is still a part of that, I feel like so many people have kind of joined in on me and it's a community. It's more than just about my account and my journey. It's my community that I feel that we've all built for each other. And I can't thank a lot of people enough for just being really good friends.
Yeah. Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you, Kelly. It's so,
Yeah.
so nice to hear all this stuff. Like, it's really cool to hear some of the background information. I learned things about you that I didn't know before, so that's cool.
Yeah, thank you.